The morning sun slipped through the slats of Roane's balcony railing, warm and soft against her bare shoulders. She knelt in front of a row of terracotta pots, her fingers buried deep in damp soil. The scent of earth, warm, clean, familiar, rose up to meet her, grounding her in a way little else could lately. The gentle scent of lavender was a cool, clean counterpoint to the humming, humid silence of the late summer morning. Roane carefully pinched back a few spent flowers from the lavender, their dried buds scattering onto the wooden decking. The small ritual of caring for her plants was the one thing that felt solid, a controlled universe in a life that felt permanently suspended. The plump, fleshy leaves of the succulents sat stoically in their pebble beds, their resilience a silent sermon. The desert rose, in particular, offered a lesson, a tough beauty she'd been practicing for 4 long years. Her desert rose plant, the one she'd almost lost, had finally begun to bounce back. The leaves were fuller now, upright, no longer drooping. She touched them gently, a silent prayer of perseverance. "Look at you," she whispered to the desert rose. "Still trying." She could almost hear Marcus's voice in her head, low, steady, carrying that unshakable belief that had both steadied and unsettled her over the years. It was the same voice she listened to in rushed, choppy satellite calls from different war-torn corners of the world, calls that always ended too soon, leaving her more frayed than comforted. "You're one hell of a woman, Roane. Go and bloom for me." He had smiled when he first said it, half drunk on wine and candlelight, before the uniforms and the missions had taken over their life. His hands had steadied her hips like they were something sacred. It was a beautiful memory, a powerful command. She was supposed to thrive, to grow, to bloom, a constant beacon of life for him to return to. Now, the words were a romantic, heavy promise she struggled daily to keep. They were a challenge to grow in an emotional drought. Their long-distance relationship was built on faith, memory, and the shared conviction that they were inevitable. When Marcus was sent back home over a year ago, they'd spoken of moving to a new city, maybe starting a family, mapping out a future that felt impossibly vivid. She lived off the scraps of those few weeks, clinging to the warmth they'd banked against the cold years of separation. But the truth was, time and distance were cruel architects. They didn't erase love, but they hollowed out the foundations of daily life. Roane now lived a look-alike, act-alike, sound-alike life, with no room for his unexpected return. She was anchored by a hope that felt less like an anchor and more like a heavy chain. This quiet, solitary existence, maintained for Marcus, was why the arrival of Andre was so profoundly disturbing. He hadn't charged in like a storm. He'd settled in like a slow, unexpected fog. Andre was a writer she met at a local cafe, with his quiet eyes and the kind of attention that didn't try to fix her. He didn't fill the space Marcus left. He noticed the empty space and sat quietly beside it. He had watched her like she was both fire and mirror, something that could burn and something that could reveal. Unlike Marcus, who required her strength, Andre simply accepted her vulnerability. He was here. Physical. He was a hand on her shoulder when she laughed, a presence across the table when she cried, and his nearness was beginning to erode the careful walls she'd built around her heart. She found herself thinking about him at odd hours, comparing the rush of his company to the stale comfort of Marcus's memory. The void of Marcus's absence was now filled with the conflict of Andre's presence. She was supposed to be blooming for Marcus, but lately, the sun she turned to felt like Andre. The knowledge was a knot of sickening guilt in her stomach. Roane reached for the watering can, her grip tightening around the handle. She needed to focus on the tangible. The plants needed her attention. They didn't ask for anything else. No explanations, no apologies, just water, light, and time. She tipped the can, watching droplets fall in a slow rhythm onto the soil. "You're one hell of a woman," Marcus's voice whispered in her mind. "Am I?" she wondered, looking at the dirt that Andre had stood in just yesterday. A door that Marcus wouldn't walk through for another year, if she was lucky. A breeze drifted in from the street below, carrying the scent of the city and something else. Change, maybe, or the forbidden suggestion of an easier path. Roane closed her eyes. She felt the pressure of two loyalties, two futures, and two loves pulling her apart. She didn't have the answers yet. But the desert rose was growing again, and the tiny, bright pink blooms on the echeveria plant looked defiant. She just had to choose who she was growing for. Thanks for watching our story unfold. What do you think Roane should do? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that make you think. See you next time.